Shalom, everybody. Shalom, shalom, shalom. I want to welcome everybody here, and I want people who've been texting us quite a bit and sending us emails and texting in the comment section to where they was having issues with Galatians 2:20, as well as Galatians 2 3:1 through 21. So what I was going to do, I couldn't do the chapter 3 because he asked me for quite a few verses, and it would take me a longer time to actually do that. So what I'm gonna do here is try to take this on a shorter note where I can take this one, chew this up for him, and then at a later date, what we end up doing, we end up going through a little bit more to where he'll get the understanding on the rest of what we actually doing. So with that, we're gonna go through. We're gonna start looking at Galatians 2:21, and we're going to start seeing some of this and start understanding exactly what Paul is talking about the entire time, because some people get confused. I know the Christian doctrine, they teach this a completely different way. So we want to understand exactly what Paul is saying. So we're going to understand the mindset that Paul had. We want to understand the mind that Paul had. Now, the one in the question is this. It tells you in Galatians 2:20. It says, I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith of the Son of Yahushua. Now, we also have, it says, who loved me and gave himself for me. Now, this is one of the parts that most people will get confused on. Why? Because we need to understand a couple of words in here, and that's why I say it's very important to understand words. It's extremely important to understand words. Why? Because once we're going to start understanding, and that's why the same thing what we're saying with the affiliations of the books and everything that's going on, and we want to make sure when we read something, we understand completely what we're reading. So what we can do, we can read it with complete understanding and not sitting there doing guesstimates and guessing games and running to somebody else's thought patterns, because that's technically all it is theology. That's why you have people go to seminary to teach theology. Theological schools is what they're doing. These are theology, these are theories based on what these people have done. So we need to look at something here. It says, I am crucified. So we're going to find out what crucified means, but it also said with Christ. So he's coupling these together. Are you seeing that? It's right there. It's right in the beginning. I am crucified with Christ. He's making that clear. So we need to understand what do that actually mean. Because with, if you notice, it's a function word. So you can write that down. With is a function word. For example, it's using as a function to express with an agreement or something that you're doing something to where it's concluding with. So same thing with you. Meaning what? You basically concluding with someone, saying with you, or saying like that, like say for example, for the painting is a forgery. So it said to look at that with the painting is a forgery. So then one would say, I must conclude with you that painting is a forgery. So you coupling yourself in agreement with what you see that happened. Are you following me? This is what this is saying. So what we're doing, we tearing down the words to understand what it actually is saying. So it's being one of the same, to function in connection with the same outlook or in treatment. So here we'll see what Paul is actually saying all the time. Now we're going to see why Paul is saying that, because he's concluding that him in Christ, they couple, because he went through the same things that Yahushua went through with Christ. And we're going to look at some of those. So we're going to go over to 2 Corinthians, and we're going to look at 11:24, and we're going to go all the way down to 27. So it says, of the Jews, 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. And most people going always, and what they do, they and they tell you different things. This is another thing. This is why we're going to find out what's very important. But they're going to tell you how they lie to you, and we're going to find out exactly how they lie to you, because right here is a clear thing. Because it says, of the Jews 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. What is this saying? He's telling you he's been beaten 5 times. But he received 40 stripes one time. Because he's telling you save only one. 40 stripes only one. But 5 times he was beat by them. Because save don't mean only. That's all it means. That's why it says 40 stripes, save one. But they said, well, he also gave him that extra stripe, so they gave him an extra one. No, that's not what that's saying. Save one. Only one. So 5 times he was beat, but 1 time he received those 40. Only 1 time he received that 40. This is I'm talking about complete lies. So we know he was beaten 5 times. So the same thing what we'll see where other people sit there and tell you completely different things. And as it keep moving on, it says, thrice I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. At night and a day I have been in the deep. What is this saying? So we know 5 times he was beaten with stripes. We know, and then only once he added 40 times. 3 times was he beaten with rods. He was stoned. And 3 times he suffered shipwreck. And he's telling you exactly what he's been going through. He's telling you exactly what he's going through. And he goes on, actually goes on more. We'll look at verse 26. It says, I journeyed off in perils of water, in perils of robbers, in perils of my own countrymen, in perils by the heathens, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brothers. That was a mouthful. Why? He's telling you, same thing. We have to understand what perils mean. So in subjection. So we can see this when you flip it around. And it says, in my journeys off, or did you say often? I normally use off. In subjection in waters, in subjection of robbers, in subjection of my own countrymen, in subjection by heathens, in subjection in the city, in subjection in the wilderness, in subjections in the sea, and in subjection of false brothers. Are we seeing how he's doing it? So he was in all these subjections and going through these events as he was trying to make it where he was going. And he goes on more, and we'll look at verse 27. It says, in weariness and painfulness, in watching oft, in hunger and thirst, in fasting oft, in cold and nakedness. So painfulness is the most serious one we need to actually focus on, because it's an uneasiness and distress on the body. That's why he's actually using that quite a bit. So we need to understand why he's saying that way. And now, once we have that, I'm trying to check something real quick. I might have to change a battery. So just 1 second. Because I probably have to change this battery. So I just want to make sure I have, and I'm ready to do it if need be. And I can go back to what I was doing. Okay, I'm set. So what we have to do is look at, so it's uneasiness and distress on the body. So affliction, sorrow, grief, and disappointed, you're distressed in mind, laborious efforts, and diligence of toils. So Paul was speaking of just like Yahushua when he's talking about in Galatians 2:20. So this is what he's actually talking about. So he said, I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. So he's telling you the same suffering that he went through is some of the same suffering that Yahushua went through. That's what he's actually telling you. Nevertheless, I live. But he was able to live through these. This is what he's talking about. This is what he's saying. Why is he saying it in this manner? Why is he saying it in this way? Why is he putting it that way? Because he's telling you that the flesh, so now I live in the flesh. So he's telling you see him in the flesh as a man, but he's not living by the flesh because the flesh profited nothing. The flesh is technically dead to him. He's living in the spirit. Why? Because the body is what the Most High is doing away with. So the body is what the Most High is requiring of you. So Paul is telling you the flip sides, and that's why you have to watch when you understand Paul. Paul will say things, and it can be so dangerous to where people don't understand what Paul is saying, and Paul making himself clear on what he's saying. So he's telling you the same thing. So even though he was crucified with Christ in the body, but he's living what? I live. And I live in the flesh, and I live by faith of the Son of Yahushua the Messiah. Even up there where he says, I was crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Who he saying live? The spirit. No matter what, the flesh profit is nothing. So we'll see the same thing because the Most High, he tells you clear as day in Hebrews 10:5, wherefore, when he cometh into the world, he says, sacrifice an offering thou wouldest not. For the body thou hast prepared me. A body. Why? Because that body's going to go through some peril. It's going to suffer many, many things. This is what Paul was talking. Many things he's going to suffer. He was beaten 5 times. He was beaten with rods. He even put the shipwrecks in there. He putting everything that he went through. He was stoned. He's telling you all the stuff that he went through with the Most High, and he's saying not with him as he walked with him, but he went through the same thing as even teaching this gospel. And the gospel don't mean the good news. The gospel means the message that he came to deliver to us. So this is what he's saying. So it's saying, wherefore, when he cometh into the world, he says, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not. Because why? We want to switch everything, and we want to use it for money. Let the money go before us. We want to switch it for animals. We want the animals to go before us. We do everything but doing what we should be doing, and he's telling you clearly in the scriptures that he wants a body. We want a body prepared for him. So if we're going to prepare this body, we need to make sure the body is prepared. So same thing, as he's saying, he went through the same things as Yahushua. So if he go through the same thing as he's saying with Yahushua, we need to look at some parallels on what Yahushua went through. And see, and these are even prophesied because when we look at Isaiah 53, we're going to look at chapter 53, we're going to go through 3 through 9. It says, he was despised and rejected of men. Now, did not this happen to Paul? Is not Paul saying this happened to him? Yeah, he was beat 5 times. He was despised and rejected of men. Paul went through this. A man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not one bit. This is what Paul's saying. Paul was not esteemed. If he was esteemed, they wouldn't have been beaten. This is what Paul is trying to get you to see in Galatians. He's saying the same identical thing on the events what happened to Yahushua. This is just telling you the prophecy that happened. That's all in one place. Besides going in the New Testament and getting it all into pieces. But you see right here, it's all prophesied on what was going to happen to this man. So what was going on with him? He was despised and rejected of men. But he goes on better. Surely he had borne our grief and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Yahweh, and afflicted. Paul was afflicted with many things. Paul is telling you the same parallel picture, and Paul is telling you this, but Paul, 98% of the time, Paul do not allude you back to where he's pulling the information from. But people like to use Paul and not thinking Paul is talking Old Testament, and Paul is all the time talking Old Testament. He says in Romans 7:1, I speak to them who know the law. Very clear. Extremely clear. Extremely clear. So we have to understand what he's saying all the time. All the time we have to understand what he's saying. So now we know Paul was going through some of this stuff. Paul was going through some of these same things. But he was wounded for our transgression. He was bruised for our iniquities. His chastenment of our peace was upon him, and his stripes we are healed. His stripes we are healed. So we clearly see he was being beaten. Everything Paul telling you, he went through this. And Paul will get beat. These things will happen to Paul, and what Paul continued to do. He continued, no matter what, to push forward. No matter what, Paul continued to move forward. No matter what, Paul continued to teach the message of Christ. No matter what, you beat him, you did everything you wanted to do to him, Paul will get up, brush off, and go and teach the message. Why? The body was not in their importance. The message. The message that the Most High is coming back to claim what is his. And everything that is not his is going to be destroyed. That's what he's coming to do. He's coming to get his own treasures, and once he dig up the treasures, and the same thing, you tell me, if you look at a similitude, you tell me when they digging in the ground and they seeking treasures, you tell me how much care and time do they take with waste matter? They don't. They toss it to the side because they want what's valuable to them. The Most High coming to do identical with what we just said. He's coming. All waste matter means nothing to him. He's coming to only get his peculiar treasure, which belongs to him and him only. And he's getting rid of all other things. And better yet, he's going to throw them into the lake of fire. Because everything else don't mean anything. This is what Paul is saying. And all we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord have laid on him the iniquity of us all. This is where most people really get screwed up, because he laid on the iniquity of us all. So what he's saying is, all our sins on what we have done, all our sins on what we continually do, it's not saying he put all those sins that we have done personally on this man. He's not saying that. What he's saying is all the sins that we do is in a like on what is sin, those things was put on this man. So we'll sit there and we'll eat unclean foods. Okay, he's not saying for each one of us have eaten unclean food, he's going to put on this man, but we was eating those unclean foods. He put that sin on him. So that's what he's letting you know. The same as we commit adultery. We sitting there out there whoring around with other false gods and idols and all this stuff. He's not saying he's going to do each and every individual Israelite to where all their sins is put on this man. What he's saying is, for all this whorism that we was doing, what he's doing is he putting that whorism with all those idols, he's putting that on this man. Are you following? This is what he's saying. Laid on him the iniquity of us all. So the sins that we commit, the sin nature of it, of what is transgression to the Most High, is what was placed on him. Because those are sin to God. So he did that to where he was being reconciling us back to God for the sins that we committed, not for each individual person's sin. He's not saying that. But this is what's being taught. And this is why people still out there teach. Watch this. It says, he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb. So he opened not his mouth. He didn't complain at all. He's going to do what was required of him. Period. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no anything. He's just going to do exactly what was required of him to do. This is what we need to be looking out for. This is what we need to be making sure we're doing all the time. But are we doing this? What we'll sit there and do, and same thing as I said, he was brought as a lamb to the slaughter. And as a lamb before the shearers is dumb. But what happened up there? Yet he opened not his mouth. And what we do, we open our mouth with a but. Well, I know we shouldn't be doing this because the Bible says it, but he was brought as a lamb to the slaughter, yet opened not his mouth. Well, I get that, but we should be able to do it. Yet he opened not his mouth. He was brought as a lamb to the slaughter. You're going to be brought before your enemies. Meaning what? As soon as you have the Holy Spirit that's in you is going to lead you into the wilderness. And many people is going to persecute you. Some by mouth, some fussing, angry, calling you all kind of names. Sometimes you got to go home. You're going to think on it and say, wow, am I really this horrible person? Is something wrong with me? It's something, because I used to be a well-liked or well-loved person. And now they just oppress, they persecute me, they do these different things. Some people get mad because they'll find out you're a chosen child of God, and since they can't have it, what do? They just like a person. If I can't have it, I'm gonna destroy it. Think about that. These are things we have to look at and understand in what he says. He was oppressed and he was afflicted. You would go in, sometimes you'll be in a person's room, or you might be in your work establishment. And if you ever notice, you'll even see people who has issues with you because they have another spirit that's in them that ain't cool with you. Understand this. Yahushua, when he was raised up from a child, and when he went across that lake and they went to the other side, and they said, oh, why you come before your time, Yahushua? Why? They didn't know him. They never seen him before, but they knew what was in him. It was the spirit. So it's the same thing. We're not dealing with flesh and blood here. We're dealing with principalities and spirits of the air. So if we're dealing with those, they're not looking at the flesh. They're looking at the spirit that's in you. So when you have people that don't like you for no reason and you don't understand it, and you're sitting there and you're trying to get some help for do this, and they treat you just like you just less than nothing. It's not the flesh in front of you doing that. It's the spirit that's within inside them. They're gonna kill the flesh. But yet you live, because you're gonna live within the spirit. You are brought as a lamb to the slaughter. You are here, and you can see we've been destroyed without a cause. And what you really need to understand is this: the most important thing on what Paul is making his statement, and yet he lived. But the one most important thing you need to understand is this: if they can destroy you and you are created in the image of God, they're not saying they hate you. They hate God. They can tell you whatever they want to tell you. Nothing changes. They hate God. If they sit there and say, I love God, why would you take God and put an image of God and put it on a tree and put a rope around the neck of that, put him up in the tree, strip him, cut off his private parts, and burn him, and then you take pictures around it? This is what Paul's saying. These are things we need to understand. He was taken from prison and from judgment. He was taken from prison and from judgment. And who shall declare this generation? Who's going to claim this generation? Who? Who's going to declare? Don't mean nothing, but he's claiming something. Who's going to declare this generation? You have many people who will sit there and tell you they love God, but you tell them, well, you change and you have to change your shoes and walk in my shoes for the rest of your life. You can go to any Gentile and say, are you willing? If you love God, are you willing to walk in my shoes for the rest of your life? If you look like me, walk like me, you live in my community, everything, are you willing to switch? Watch what they tell you. Watch what they tell you. Some will lie to you and say, oh yeah, I do it. No, they won't, because they know what comes with that. They know what's coupled to that. And if they're being honest with themselves, who, even in their right mind, is sitting there saying, I'm going to tell you what, I understand that you guys are shot first and then we ask for your driver license later. We understand these things. We understand that you had a cell phone in your hand and you got shot and you got killed. We understand that. We understand that your child is being beaten right there in front of you and they're telling you to be quiet, and if you want something, you can get something too. We understand that. We understand when you go to the car dealers, the house places and everything else, you can have a AAA credit to where they will sit there and you having AAA credit and the one who have C credit, who's not looking like you, get a better interest rate than you do. Where they used to have, and I'm pretty sure they still have it in the corporate world today, they used to sit there and call the temporary help employment line, and sometimes the employment agency, and say, yeah, can you send over a mail, and we want an all-American. All-American. All-American means blonde hair, blue eyes. He was taken from prison and from judgment. For he was cut off out of the land of the living. He was killed. For the transgressions of my people was he stricken. So for what we do, we created all this sin, and he was afflicted for those. Not for the ones each individual. But once we all colluded and we all got into this sin, he was killed for those. He sat there and he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit found in his mouth. And his grave was with the wicked, with the rich in his death. These are things that Paul is trying to get you to understand on what was happening. What was happening? Why? Because he's telling you, no matter what with the flesh, no matter what is happening to the flesh, it's the spirit is what is the treasure to the Most High. Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise him. He had put him to grief. Who? Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise him. He, who? Yahweh, did what? Put him here. He put him to grief. And when thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin. This soul, that body. Everybody, well, no, that's the spirit. It's talking about the spirit, ain't it? No, that's talking about the body. His soul is an offering for sin. You bring in the spirit and you laying your body before him and saying, this is a sinful body. I lay this before you for you to burn it. I'm laying my life, my body of this life before you for sin. And it should be killed. And I'm laying my life down for you. My life is now laid before you to destroy it or to do whatever your will is. And he said, I'm going to tell you, I got something better for you. I'm going to rest in this body because the body is dead. I'm going to rest in this body and I'm going to find more. I'm going to rest in this body and I'm going to go into the wilderness and get a few others. I'm going to rest in this body and share this message. Because you're dead. If you truly saying you're dead, now you're not going to be led of the body. You're not going to be looking for what to do with the body. So you're going to be led of the spirit. So there's no reason for you to have a body. Because you laid your body down, what you going to do? Come take it up again? Do you have that kind of power? You joined yourself with Christ. So if you joined yourself with Christ, then you saying this, and he shall see his seed. That spirit that's in you. He shall prolong his days, that life that's in your body. And the pleasures of the Lord shall prosper at his hand. Prosper in his hand. So when you look at Galatians 2:20, I am crucified with Christ. He destroyed the body, didn't need it. And yet he lives. So as he's saying this, he's sitting there, he's saying, nevertheless I live. Yet not I, but Christ that liveth in me. Because the body is dead. And I let him use this body whichever way he will. Whatever his desires is the desires of this body is going to do. This body is going to be his footstool to where he can walk and go and get to the locations he needs to get to. These are things we have to understand. These is why we need to understand why it's so important on when we're looking at these verses and not knowing what they're doing. This is why we need to understand and clearly understand when Paul is sitting there talking. Paul is talking the law. Those sheep, those goats, those oxen, those are all schoolmasters. Schoolmasters was showing us what he requires. And they ended up taking it for truth. They sitting there and they just continue to do it, not looking at living for the Most High. It's the same as you can take two of us. We can sit there and we're in sin, and the only thing we'll sit there and say is, okay, you want to tell you what? Me and you going to go do this dirt. We both know it's dirt. Whatever the issue is, we going to know it's dirt. But then the first thing we'll say, if it was that offering was still going on, but Yahweh made an end to that, but we'll sit there and say, well, I'm tell you what. He'll say, well, I'm tell you what, my brother, I know you don't want to really do it, but since I'm gonna get you to go with me, what I'm gonna do, have you go with me, and then at the end, I'll go buy the 2 sheep, and we'll take the 2 sheep down to the priest and have them sacrifice for our sins. It's a remembrance in that, because guess what? He might come to me next year and say the same thing. So if you crucify with Christ, it means that crucified, you destroyed the body with Christ. That body was destroyed. He was crucified with Christ. So hopefully you have some understanding from this, my brother, that was asking that question on Galatians 2:20 and getting clarification on that. And I will set up a study later for the other one, to where you can get some understanding on Galatians 3:1, I think, through 23 is what you're looking for. But that one, I had to set up a entire teaching for that, which would take quite a long time. So with that, I do have some time for some questions. If you do have any, if not, I will go out, because I have about 15 minutes. And if you have any questions, I can take those at this time. And if not, I will go out and we will finish out our first day of the week. So far we are pretty good on what is happening. And I see nothing there. So it looks like we will be pretty good on what is going on. Yeah, and then if most of you guys, some of you guys have a question on some scriptures and different things, it's best many times to really let me know what you really want to look for and what you're actually looking for, and it can help me out a great deal, to where I can get a lot of this stuff to you, and we can straighten a lot of that stuff out. So just let me know what you're trying to do, or what you're trying to understand there, and then it's better for me to do it that way. But right now I don't see anybody actually asking any questions, so it looks like I'm gonna get ready to go out and finish up. So I'll be a couple more. And I believe Antonio, I don't think I do have your number. I'm not sure. If you send me an email, Antonio, send me an email at elder.mjohnson@kjbu.org. I'm gonna put it in here. elder.mjohnson@kjbu.org. Just send it there, and just put your number in there, because I do know who you are. I know exactly who you are, and we're pretty cool with one another. So what I want you to do is send me your number, because we do have some of the deeper part of it. You're gonna put your number right in here. All right, my brother. Let me see. 843-822-1518. Yeah. Now, I'm gonna delete that for you. I just want to remove that to where it won't be to everybody. So, but I wrote the number down. But one of the main things is we have other teachings to where even to the Adam and Eve and everything, we want to do some of those teachings, some of the even the deeper parts of that to even get deeper understanding. We're going to be doing a lot of those things in the back. So we want to make sure, even like with you, I do know, and I believe you're in Cuba, if I'm not misunderstanding, but I believe so. And I do. So a lot of those teachings are going to be done in the back, because still, like in the front, we still don't release a lot of information in the front due to the heresy that people like to do and people like to teach, and Christians like to take it and do different things with it. So those we'll still be doing in the back. And you're more than welcome actually on that, because actually the study Bible, because we have the study Bible, and actually I want to clear up another thing even with that, because I know it was one sister, she was sitting there, and I know she claimed that to Brother Dudu, and I had to tell him don't do something that he actually wanted to do, because he get in his own ways. However, what actually going on is, when a person is doing a book, we have a difference between books. When you're doing a book and you're writing a book, if I was doing like a T.D. Jakes or Creflo Dollar, one of them type of people, what would happen is this. I write a book on how to get closer to God, to tell you something to that effect. Something like that. Just, how to do something with God, or let me show you how to understand God's word. Something to that effect. That's not what that is. This is a book just showing you the affiliations, the word means, of what those words mean in the Bible. It's technically all it is. So did I write it? No. All I'm doing is showing you the affiliations of it, and that's it. Because I have nothing else to do with it. So for you to get closer to God, you can go through the studies with us, which is free, and to understand God's word, which is all free. So technically that's what it is. But when you have a person that's actually writing a book, I can't say that I wrote the King James Bible, because I didn't. But I can say I did edit and clarify the affiliations of the untranslated words. That's what I did. And that's what a Hebraist actually does. We hold to the Old Testament, and we go into the Paleo Hebrews. We go into a lot of Aramaic, which a lot of people think a lot of this stuff was in Hebrew and a lot of it was in Aramaic, which something to keep you guys understand. So that's what was going on. So, but that's just to clear that up. And I know Brother Dude, he will get into his little issues, but that's the clear up part of it. So that's why you see those out there, you see these study Bibles to where they do that. And Collins, that's it. Hey, bless you, my brother. I appreciate it. And thank you. That's it. The writing of the book, one book teaching has ended. I don't quite understand. Thank you, everybody. You did say that I come. Because the writing of the book, one book teaching has ended. I'm not understanding quite the question. Not quite understanding your question. So, yeah, I'm not quite understanding that question. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, the Most High, what we got to remember is there's a couple of things, what a lot of people do. A lot of people like to use God, and then they want to hold themselves on higher levels. And that's something that I don't profess to do. I don't try to do. I don't sit there and say, basically, all he is, he's looking for servants. The Most High, that's all he's looking for. He's looking for servants. Why? Because the sheep belong to him. And all he do, if you pick up that bucket, whatever you want to call it, a trough, whatever you want to call it, you want to go out there and feed the sheep. And that's literally all I do. I don't do nothing any different than another one that will be teaching truth. It's no different. We just feed sheep. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Do it make me better than you? No. Actually, you're on the better end, because you're the one sitting at the table and I have to serve you. That's why he said that the greater will be serving the younger, and that's why it goes in those ways, because we have to do these things in that way. Why? Because you sitting at the table and I have to serve you. Now you want to eat whatever he's serving, but I serve you. So that don't make me greater in no way. And I think that might be it on the question. I guess I'll get off and I'm gonna call Antonio. So I don't see any other questions. And if it's another, like a one line or one verse or one or two, no more than 5 verses, if you have those kind of complications, you're more than welcome to send them to us, let us know, and we'll try to get it clear for you. Make sure that, we can precept it, get it cleared for you, and we can make sure everything is good. But when you send the one like he added another one, which was still fine, but it was, it's really technically it's the entire chapter. So that'll take us a little while to do it, because I have other ones that I do, but I will be doing it. Because Paul is a complex one. And the class will be open. See, the class is open. Actually, we have a class that will be opening, but with the class being open, we only opening it to certain people, so you will be vetted, because we want to make sure exactly who you're dealing with, because that's even the same thing. We have people who's in here, even currently, who they think we didn't know who they were, but we know who they were. So same thing here, but you will be vetted, because we're going to make sure no heresy is going on back there, and that's why you will be vetted. And yeah, those are ended. That's why you don't see it. So I don't even know what that question was even asked. It was ended based on the heresies of what we're going through. Because we even had a couple of gentlemen that actually was speaking with someone else, and they literally telling the person, actually done it under me, which was really crazy. And what they were doing, they were telling that person, they was teaching. They had the whole loaf of bread, and I was teaching the crumbs, but they was learning under me. Interesting. But literally, and one probably just got out of Christian school, and the other one wasn't out that much longer, and they both were basically on water, but technically they thought they had a lot of knowledge, and technically really don't have any knowledge. So technically what was going on. So the easiest way to keep this clear is to keep that kind of silliness out. And can you do a teach about the beginning of Ma? I don't know what you're saying here. I don't even know what Ma, I don't know what you're saying there. Ma, I don't get that. Yeah, and see, a lot of that stuff you have to send the emails, but just like I was saying, anybody who's trying to be part of it, you'll see a registration gonna go out, and a lot of people who already is good and cleared, because we already have them in our system on the back end in another way. They're good, so they don't have to go through nothing else, so they're good. But any new ones, you will be vetted. So man, you said it's not in Genesis. Okay, so I don't. Okay, you said about man. So man, you said is not in Genesis. I don't know what. I literally don't have the slightest idea of what you're saying. You're not explaining yourself for me to where I can get what you're saying. Because you just said man, you said it's not in Genesis, but I know you make mankind, so that's what I'm saying. I don't get your question at all. So you might have to take the time and really write it out to where I can see what you're saying, or you can email me. You can do it either way. Okay, you send various emails, but just keep it there. And if you're sending it to us, they have them. You don't have to send them a bunch of times. Just send it. They will have it in their queue, and then they will come to you. Technically, what happened. And I don't see the other one. So with that, I see that everybody named all the questions. So with that, we will get ready to go off. So hopefully, the person who had that question with Galatians, hopefully that answered all your questions. So with that, I'm going to go out, and until next week, I bid each and everybody a shalom.